All right, and we are live. Welcome to the Read Now Book Club. As we are here, your hosts, to help and discuss Her Perfect Hero, the amazing novel by our very own Miss Emma Bennet. I know we're getting started just a few minutes late, but welcome. So if you haven't already, we're going to be discussing Emma Bennet's book, Her Perfect Hero. Everything's linked down in the YouTube description. We're going to be talking about it. We're going to be talking about our thoughts, things we loved, the things we hated, the things we were intrigued about, and much, much more. Welcome. I'm Kaufman. Welcome to the community. And this was a good book. I'll let my fellow co-hosts introduce themselves.
Hello, lovelies. Mama Maggie Ward, independent author, stroke survivor, migraine overcomer. I have books. Yes. And everybody knows that I am a Mr. Darcy fangirl. Here for the Mr. Darcy.
Woo! And I feel like everybody's going to be. But we're going to be getting into Mr. Darcy. I have a lot of thoughts on Mr. Darcy. Courtney, I'll kick it over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney, the avid reader and the author of Falling for a Storm, which, fingers crossed, will come out at some point in 2025.
Woo! All right, my friends. So, what a read. What a read. And I think it's so interesting for me because romance isn't my like inherent or default go-to. So, why don't we start with some general thoughts in terms of like what did we think of the book overall, and then we can kind of go into talking about the characters, the sections, and each of the parts individually. And let me welcome everyone to the stream. I see everyone here. Richard, great to have you. Calvin, Emma, of course. And make sure to stick around. We're going to actually be interviewing Emma in just a little bit. So we've had a lot of community questions. So if you have questions for Emma and there's some things that you need to know, drop them in the chat. We'll save your questions, and we're going to be interviewing the very wonderful Miss Emma Bennet in just a little bit. And Adrian, yes, Adrian is here with us in spirit because he has sustained an injury of epic proportions. So, Adrian, we will be welcoming you from the. I know, epic scooter accident.
If only it was a horse.
That would have been falling in line with
That
this one.
would have been perfect.
A horse accident. Then you could have felt more closer
Connected.
to our hero. And then Bethany, it's great to have you here in the chat as well. Make sure I don't miss anybody. I see so many faces. Maddie, welcome. And let's get into it. So, what'd you ladies think?
I thought it was a really cute, cozy, just romance. I was really interested in the cultural differences of it. That like it wasn't. I've read plenty of books that are like take place other places, but they don't commit to it the way that Emma did. And I really liked learning about that different culture of like England and a little bit of Irish. I would have liked a little bit more Irish, but I liked the cultural differences that I did get.
I enjoyed the setting a lot. Emma knows that I'm like, you guys know I'm like nuts for world building. And I loved how immersive the setting was. And this, the fact that she's in this little tiny town and they still have a half a dozen people that will get together at the pub and have a little writers group. I was like, I want to live there. I want to live there and have that. And the weather. The thing is like, yeah, I like with the world building stuff. The weather's one thing I noticed, and just the way the weather affected certain things in the books, like over and over and over again. Not in a way that it reflected the character's mood, but that it was this actual environmental thing that changed possible arcs of the story. That was really, really good. I loved her friends and Ryan's family and the juxtaposition to the common class versus Sebastian's family and the royals, and how it's like you see that they're really not that different. It's just attitudes. I like they eat in the kitchen the same as the
Mhm.
college people do. They have drinks in the evening, same as the college
Mhm.
people do. Oh, they're a lord and lady.
Mom Maggie, I know you cut out there for just a second, but I could definitely tell that it's interesting. We get such a look at the difference in social classes in the book, and I think something that Emma's book does really really well is challenging our preconceived notions of different structures, whether that is a preconceived notion of what different types of romances are supposed to be, or whether that is a preconceived notion of societal and the wealthy, that like high class versus what we think that high class is. And I thought that was actually very well done. I feel like we got a lot of references. Like I loved the references to classic. I definitely got the Wuthering Heights. I loved all the writing references. And
Yeah.
who doesn't love a character that's a writer? I mean,
Yeah.
all right, guys. Like I think that was a win.
Well, she's a romance writer who's in love with romance. She
Hmm.
wants Prince Charming.
Hmm.
And, the nice guy next door is, the nice guy next door.
Who's
But
a dentist?
he's the safe guy. He's the nice guy. And then you have Lord Sebastian, and who rescues her on horseback and plays polo and does all of those aristocrat things.
Hmm.
So, but it's like that ideal, it's like all 20 somethings, that have had a sheltered life, and, or just, they get into this romance idea of, they want the Prince Charming, or they want the bad boy, or they want some idealized romance trope guy, and they tend to friend zone the normal guy.
I
Well,
know.
I
When
almost fear that it's like falling into the stereotype of forgetting that they're people and they have flaws,
Mhm.
because they're falling into the stereotype of all your checks, that they're like, oh, I mean, they check off all these boxes, so they have no flaws. And it's like you overlook all the flaws.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think what's so interesting is that when we think about flaws, we're reading it as the reader, and we're like, "Hey, it's so obvious. That's the right guy for you. He is the
Yeah.
right guy. He is who you actually want." But 9 times out of 10 when we're in the position, we're in the same exact position as the hero. We're like we don't see it. We're thinking of the things we think
The
we want,
blinders
right?
are
well,
real.
well, as readers, we're
Mhm.
like the bestie Camille going, "Would you do just kiss? Would you? Would you do just kiss?" And
We're like, he's so right for you. He's like doing
and
like all like
Bronte's
the
like,
yeah.
"No, Prince Charming on a horse," and Camilla's like, "I'm gonna smack you." And even Mr. Darcy's like, "I am going to bite the stinky prince. I don't like him. I like the dentist."
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
I'm
Like,
like,
I
I
can't
don't
tell
want to
you how
talk
many
about
times I
polo
yelled.
horses.
I can't tell you how many times I actually yelled, and I was like, "Are you serious? You always trust your pet. You trust your pet." I
Oh my
was so
goodness.
angry.
I was like, I think by the time I was halfway through the book, I'm like, I don't want to hear any more about horses or polo.
I
I was like
love
But
right
horses.
there
but
with
it
her.
was
I love horses, and I
it
was
was
like,
so sweet of
"Ugh."
Ryan to make such an effort to
Hmm.
help her learn how to ride a horse
Hmm.
after she was completely
Hmm.
humiliated at the riding school.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I also was kind of like, dude, Ryan, if she don't get it by now, is she ever gonna?
I know. I know.
Yeah.
Oh man. So and this is my question to both you guys, because I know I'm less of a romance reader on average, but I really appreciate being able to read that more outside my genre that I'm not used to. So for a romance book, does it feel like it adheres to a lot of the trends that the romance genre tends to adhere to?
Yes.
Yes.
It,
Okay.
it it tends to hit all the little cozy marks
Hmm.
of the clueless female lead,
Hmm.
and the trying too hard male lead, and then
Hmm.
the other male lead that is just kind of like, yes, I know, God's gift to women. So I think it really fit well into the cozy
Hmm.
romance genre. But I'm a
Mhm.
person, I read a lot of cozy romances. Those are my palate cleanser leads. Those
Mhm.
and magical cozies are those are when I'm switching projects or when I'm switching reads, I will read a cozy in between because those are
Mm.
my fluffy slippers and cup of cocoa reads.
Mm. And is it the cozy because it's like it's kind of like that lifestyle? We got the cozy cottage, with the that guy next door, and it felt like it was like such a vibe, and I'm just not used to it personally. But I felt like when I was done reading, I wanted to go grab like a hot toddy and go grab a book and go find like a nice cottage to go read in, and then hope that my next door neighbor was maybe or maybe not a dentist.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like it's very, so I read a lot of like newer age romance,
Mhm.
which I feel is very like drastically changed from the cozy romance. Like it was a great cozy
Mm,
romance,
okay.
but I wouldn't say
Mhm.
it's on the same level as like I wouldn't read Emma's book and then go pick up any other romance and think that it's going to be in that same wheelhouse because I feel like
Mhm.
they're almost two different genres at this point.
Mm.
Because
Interesting.
like romance has moved away from like the clueless female lead
Mhm.
and she like most romance that I read is she's more like not clueless and just not like
Mhm.
more self-preservation than the
Mhm.
cozy romance side. And so I feel like that was eye-opening to me
Mhm.
as a writer. And I'm sitting here like, like, well, Fallen's cozy, but Fallen's not that cozy. And so I need to move away from cozy if that's what
Mhm.
cozy is, because
Mhm.
and like move away from that term because they're drastically different in the same genre.
Different genres. Okay. Okay, that totally makes sense. Um, okay, so then let me ask you this: when you pull back from the book in general, and I really actually want to hear from everyone here in the chat as well. What was your favorite part of the book? What was like your favorite? What was the most memorable part for you? I'm so curious. Like, was there like either a favorite or most memorable? And if you're watching in the live stream or you're catching up on the replay, we would love to hear from you. Drop a comment. What was the most memorable part for you?
Okay, can I go first? Because
Yeah,
I'm
go for it.
still laughing about this and I had to
Mhm,
reread it last night. Because like I needed a laugh. And
mhm,
so when Ryan falls through the antique bed when he goes to sleep over there and then he falls through the antique bed and then she's trying to like the next morning when they're talking to his parents about it and she's trying to like cover it up and she makes it so much worse. And even Mr. Darcy is like, girl, what are you doing to this man?
Oh
I
man.
That whole
died laughing because that is so something that I would do.
this it and the thing is she runs over to like see who's breaking into her house with a hair
The
Uh-huh.
dryer.
hair
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
legit crying. I'm laughing so hard right now, Emma.
yeah, for me, it was all of the parts with Mr. Darcy and like how this goes to a personal thing for me because it was like
Mhm,
when I first met my husband, I had a cat
mhm.
named Cricket. Cricket hated
Okay.
it was a rescue. She was from a violent abuse
Mhm,
situation, so she liked no
mhm.
men at all. And like the first time he came to my house, Cricket got in his lap, and I was like, "What juju do you possess?" And we're going on 27 years now, so yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, the cat picked the right and the fact that Mr. Darcy went straight to Ryan and was like, I am this human's friend now.
It's the human.
I actually think that I think one of my favorite moments was actually a Mr. Darcy moment. I think it was when the first time the horrible first date with with their
Sebastian?
yeah,
Sebastian.
with Sebastian. The horrible first date with the two of them at her cottage, and Mr. Darcy like literally like giving him like that the eyeball moment, and like you're like, okay, it's gonna happen again. And the entire time I was hoping Mr. Darcy would actually get out and scratch his face.
See, that moment you're waiting for the cat to bite him.
Exactly.
Like,
I wanted Mr. Darcy to get out.
And daddy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think all of us were like, okay, Mr. Darcy's gonna get him. Mr. Darcy's gonna get him. And then the way Mr. Darcy kept trying to trip her whenever she was like going to go see him, Mr. Darcy's like, nope, fall down and die. You're not.
How
But a
was
really
Mr. Darcy?
sweet moment was when at the ball, when she was like, if I end up with Sebastian, I would have to get rid of Mr. Darcy. And she's like tearing up at the dinner. And she's like, I can't do that. Like, he doesn't like me, but I can't get rid of him. I picked him out at a shelter, and he was like he was skinny and starved, and I made him who he is. Like, and she was just tearing up. And I feel like that was the moment that she was like, I can't be with this guy with all these red flags that I've been ignoring or excusing. And now she's like, I can't get rid of my cat for him. And I was like, finally.
Yeah. And I think this actually leads us into a great conversation about characters. So when we think about the characters of our book, and I know we have, actually, I wouldn't say it's like a large cast, but we have some very pronounced characters. And I feel like Mr. Darcy as a character and as a device works very, very well. I remember going through that first chapter and I'm like, wow, Emma did a save the cat moment extremely well, quite literally and figuratively, right? You literally like Mr. Darcy almost from the get-go. And then the fact that Mr. Darcy is tied into her ultimate motivation for doing what we know is right for her. Like, yeah, with Sebastian was not the right guy for her, clearly. Royalty or not, he was clearly not the right guy for her. And the fact that Mr. Darcy, as a character, as a minor character, even though it's a cat, Mr. Darcy has a personality, and it's very, very obvious. And I think it helps serve her ultimate character journey, which I think is incredibly well done. Yeah. What would you guys say? I know Mr. Darcy is a fan favorite. I know Mr. Darcy is absolutely a fan favorite. What would you guys say about some of the other characters in the book? Were there any ones that really stood out to you?
Ryan was actually my favorite.
Okay.
And it could just because like I'm just not a cat person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also kind of like, why doesn't your cat like you? I was questioning that a little bit, but then I got to know her a little bit more and I was like, okay, I understand. But like, I think my favorite from the beginning was Ryan, and my favorite all the way through. But sometimes I got a little annoyed at him and I'm like, you're trying too hard. Like, how many times does the girl got to tell you no? But at the same time, she's also giving you mixed signals. So I understand, but at the same time, but I think Ryan was my favorite throughout.
Yeah, I feel like Ryan had a lot of those qualities that seemed like he was literally like the best guy. It kind of seemed like he really was like he literally knew how to do all the things, right? He was always there and all attentive. He wanted to have the fun like movie nights with pizza. He knew how to do things with cars. He was willing to be around. Her friends all liked him, right? Whether it was her main friend or the book club or her writers group friends, like everybody liked him. And it's almost like it was so obvious for us, the readers, but not obvious for our main character. And that's what made his character stand out and do so good.
Yeah. But I feel like it was obvious to the main character. She just didn't want to listen.
She did have these moments where she like literally fled.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's how she twisted her ankle.
Right, right.
Like, she fled from Ryan, and it was like, she had those, has that 20 something romance blinders on about, I can't fall in love with the normal guy. I want the prince on the white horse.
He's a dentist. And then every Friends fan is like, yeah, he's a dentist.
Do you know how much money dentists make?
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I know we all like Mr. Darcy, and obviously he was our dentist. He was a very great character as well. How did you guys feel about Sebastian as both a technically like the love interest, but kind of the antagonist in a sense? What
He was
how do you guys feel about his character?
he was that spoiled rich jock character
Mhm.
that you
Mhm.
find in all high school romances. You know,
Mhm.
the guy that looks good on paper,
Mhm.
from the good family, has the
Mhm.
athletic stuff, tall, handsome,
Oh
broad-shouldered.
yeah.
You
Uh-huh.
know, he had all of those attributes, and but you know, he really just was this like really self-absorbed person,
Mm.
and Bronte was so in love with the idea of of Lord Sebastian
Mhm.
that she didn't see the person Lord Sebastian until the dance
Yeah. He gave me the ick from the beginning.
and the dinner with his parents.
Oh my
Mhm.
god. Why did he have another date
Oh
after
god,
that?
what like an awkward scene. Like so well written, but what like an awkward moment. Like you're
It was a
expecting them to be like the butler, but it's like the parents and
and it,
the dad's like an asshole. Like you're like the dad clearly doesn't care, and then the mom's just kind of like in her own world. And it just but it's so well done, and the place is freezing, and they're like, oh, but this is just a side house. And it's like the entire thing just has a vibe.
yeah, well, she had all these preconceived notion of
Hmm.
what it's going to be like to go
Hmm.
to the castle,
Hmm.
to the
Hmm.
manor and visit the lord and lady and their son.
Hmm.
And it was just like, I mean, that right there should have been her biggest, like, that should have been her epiphany moment, that
Hmm.
things are not what I think they are here. But she was still like trying to justify salvaging it. Maybe, you know, maybe it's the butlers and the cooks and the maids night off, and maybe, you know, and it's like
Well, let's
she
start talking highly of a really disgusting meal.
Hmm.
As a foodie, no. Why did you have another date after that? I
because
couldn't
she
get behind it at all. I was like, what is
because
this
she
girl
wanted
doing?
to pursue her true love. Um,
True
and
love
I
has
guess that's
fun.
interesting because I think about it from a plotting perspective, and I'm like, okay, so it seems so obvious that he was like so wrong for her. I ask myself, as her as a character, what reasons did she stay in the relationship for him? For him, she wanted Mr. Right, obviously, but it didn't seem like they had anything in common. I
No,
mean,
they
it
couldn't talk about
it felt like
anything.
they had like zero things in common.
Yeah.
And I almost asked myself if there should have been a stronger, not stronger, but an additional motivation, like one thing that they had in common that would have been at least like a like, oh, this is also like a good thing. Like, did they because I mean they didn't really even have any physical chemistry. I mean they kind of did, but it was kind of in her head in a sense. Like
well, the whole romance was in her
mhm,
see,
mhm.
the whole
But
romance with
see
Sebastian
mhm,
was in her
mhm,
head.
mhm.
Right, but what kept Sebastian around? That would be my one big question. What
Mm,
kept Sebastian around? Because at the end,
yeah,
he what
yeah,
like
that's
he's
interesting. Mhm,
slumming
She
it. It
was
has to be something.
because she was devoted. It's that the
But they
jock likes
rarely saw each other. How was that devotion?
she kept making the effort to come back to him. He made If you look at
I
it, he
mhm,
made no effort at all. He made
and
no effort.
I
He
would say
made,
he did make effort. I just don't know why he did. He made effort to give the ball tickets. He made effort
mhm,
to go back to Camilla's house and figure out where her address was. He made a lot of effort. He made
mhm.
effort to go see her when she visited in London randomly. Like he made a lot of effort. I just don't know why he did. What was
Yeah,
his
it's like
interest?
I think then that question is like, why was he attracted to her?
Yeah,
Mama, you're saying like, okay, it sounds like he was attracted because she was doing all the things. That's interesting. I'm thinking through that actually. I think that's fascinating. Or maybe I almost feel that it's because, as you spoke to, Mom Maggie, that it's because he had kind of like that spoiled rich kid syndrome, and it kind of felt like, and I don't know if it was obvious enough, but it kind of felt like that he probably doesn't. People don't reject him. He just accepts that everybody loves him and everybody's into him.
yeah.
I
Well,
almost feel like
yeah.
that was probably what it was. But I don't think it was obvious. I think it was subtextually suggested that way.
So Emma says in the comments, Sebastian's also a romantic. Think of how they met. He loves to think of himself as the hero rescuing the damsel.
That's a good point. I
Wait,
mean, I think one of the best scenes, and like regardless of like how poor they are for each other, the scene where they first meet is actually extremely romantic. I don't think
yeah,
there's anything subjective about that initial scene.
right. And
He
I
picks her
understand
up,
why
dashes
he
her off, and I'm like, I think that's actually brilliantly well done. But every single moment after that is just
yeah.
like
What
down
brings
a
him back
canyon.
after the cat
Hmm.
attacks his leg? What brings him
Hmm.
back after the cat attacks his leg? Because I can't find that reason.
Hmm.
Because there's a million and one girls out there and he's a lord. They're falling at
Hmm.
his feet.
Hmm.
What takes him back here? You know? And that's the part where I'm kind of like, why is he putting up with this?
Well,
The
see,
cat
Yeah.
doesn't like her.
I have an interesting theory about that, and
Okay. All right.
this is from growing up in an area where there were like vacation houses.
Hmm.
When I was a young teen, we lived in an area where there were people who had vacation houses out by the lakes. Now we lived out
Okay.
there all year round, and then there were people that would come out,
Yeah.
and they didn't stay at the manor all the time.
Right.
Okay.
They lived in London, they went other places, and it's kind of like that, the idea of you have a girl at home and then you have a girl at your vacation place. It's this rich
Hmm.
person mindset of, and I think that might have, he had, yeah, in London
But it
there were girls
follows
around.
him home. She goes and meets up with him in London. He
Yeah.
allows that. So like I think that's why I wouldn't go straight to it's like a seasonal fling because
Hmm.
he goes back to London multiple times.
Hmm.
And one of the times she's like, "Hey, I'm going to London too. Like, you want to meet up?" And he's like carves out an hour but doesn't like that disastrousness. And so I'm just kind of like, why is he investing as much as he's investing?
And I see Emma's comments as well. You're like, because he thinks of Sebastian is also romantic. Think of how they met. He thinks of himself as the hero rescuing the damsel. And I could definitely see that. You're like, he doesn't want a strong woman, and because of how they meet, he sees her as a delicate princess. She's different, and she's charmed by him. He likes that. It plays to his vanity, which I think that totally makes sense. I ask myself if I see that because I think in their meetings when I think back as a reader, I'm like, okay, what do I think about during their dates? I think about Mr. Darcy attacking him because that was a very pronounced moment. I think about that he only talks about polo and horses and that he's very into himself.
And
So it's
he's
like I
very into
almost don't know
mommy
if
and
I
daddy.
yeah, exactly, and mommy and daddy. And it's like I
He's
almost
very
don't know.
into mommy and daddy and polo.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like I don't those are all actually really
And
interesting moments.
the scene though, here's the thing that I think is the really good juxtaposition of the classes here, because the dinner with Sebastian's parents at the
Mhm.
manor is so awkward. It is so cringe. And you're like, oh, poor Bronte. And she's like, her car won't start again. And then she's like, come and get me. Ryan is like, oh, Mr. Darcy's here. And I was just seeing it. She's like, come and get me. My car won't start. Because she doesn't want to stay there. And then the next, like a few chapters over, you see the dinner with Ryan's parents and his sister, and
Mhm.
they're laughing and they're talking, and
Mhm.
they're in the kitchen, sitting
Mhm.
around the kitchen table again, and it's a completely different
Mhm.
vibe. It
Mhm.
is and this the
Yeah.
juxtaposition of these two scenes is so well done,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I love that is one thing that I love about Emma's writing is that she can take the exact same scene and
Mhm.
write them in such different ways.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of the compare and contrasting with the different characters and parts of the world is done so well. And I think it's because the contrasting is done well that by the time we get to the end, we're like, of course you're going to choose the right thing for you because we as the reader have seen that compare contrast throughout the entire story. I felt very like by the time I got through the to the midpoint of the book, I felt like I'm like, okay, I feel like this is very heartwarming.
Yeah.
I feel heartwarming for her, and I'm like, okay, she's gonna have to I was guessing, I'm like, okay, she is going to choose herself and the dentist. She's going to have to choose them because like it's
Yeah.
who her character is as a writer. Like that's who she is. And oh, and speaking of writing, I loved that we got the secondary sub story of what's happening in the book that she's writing.
Yeah. I like that the book taught her
Mm-hmm.
that Sebastian was in it for her. I like that the
Mm-hmm.
book taught her that it's not about what's right on paper. I
Mm-hmm.
love that she learned from her book and
Mm-hmm.
from the book guiding her. And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, why are we going this way? And then she takes it to the critique group and they're like, it's great. And she's like, but why are we going this way? Is this wrong? And they're like, no,
Mm-hmm.
it fits, it works, go with it. And she's like, okay, and her book is like guiding her through life. And I love
Mm-hmm.
that. But I swear, if she didn't end up with Ryan at the end, I was going to
Mm-hmm.
break my tablet because I was so,
Oh
I was
man.
like, seriously.
All right. So speaking of that ending, what did you two think? I would love to hear your thoughts. What did you guys think of the ending? Did you love it? Hate it? Anything you change? Are you waiting for the sequel? What do you guys think?
I loved the ending.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the ending, and honestly, I want an entire Cupid Cats series with the cat playing the matchmaker
With
in
Mr. Darcy. Yep.
in all of them.
I think I love your hashtag, Mom Maggie. You're like the Mr. Darcy fan club. I want the next like series to be the Mr. Darcy fan club.
That's fine.
The
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Darcy Cupid Cat Society.
Aw.
I think with the ending, it gave a
Mm-hmm.
very like fairy tale. It ended it like a fairy tale does. It
Mm-hmm.
it was Cinderella at her leaving her wedding day. It was very
Mm-hmm.
like, even though there's no wedding, but you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean. It gave that very like closed ending, and I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
thank gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
just breathed a sigh of relief when
Mm-hmm.
it finished, and I was like, she figured it out. Yay. I just had to breathe for a minute. I was just like, golly, I was worried about her for the whole book.
Mm-hmm. Girl gets the guy and the one who's not royalty, but the one who's right for her, and she gets to keep her cat who hates certain people.
Including her.
Our cat loves Ryan. Mr.
Huh?
Darcy loves Ryan. That is
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Oof. So yeah, I felt like that ending from a plot perspective definitely worked out really well.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm also not as used to reading romance, so I'm not sure if that was like a normal ending for that type of romance, because I felt like I was able to kind of guess what the ending was. Maybe by the time I got maybe 40%. I was like, maybe by the time I got 40%, I'm like, all right, she's gonna have to like choose Ryan. It's like too obvious. But maybe
Yeah.
that's
No.
part of it. And I don't know. Is that a thing with like romance and relationships of like, okay, you know how it's going to end. Like, you know, the relationship's going to work out. It's just trying
Well,
to figure out how.
you should know that from the blurb.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not a happily ever after, you should definitely know that before you pick it up, because when you
Mm-hmm.
pick up romance, you want that like you either want that
Mm-hmm.
happily ever after, or you want to be warned that it's not there.
Oh, really?
Yes, because if
Does
you
that
read an
spoil the
entire book
surprise?
and there's not a happily ever after, and you were under the impression that there was
But,
going to be, you're angry.
but doesn't that spoil the surprise? Why would I want to know it's a happily ever after before I know about the relationship?
Why are you
happily ever
reading?
afters are like a cozy must. Happy ever
Right.
after, happy for now are like a cozy must. If you don't at least have a happy for now,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a cozy.
Well, yeah, but not just but we're more broad for romance. But like, if you're
Mm-hmm.
not told there's not a happily ever after,
Mm-hmm.
like you're reading romance for the relationships. You're reading
Mm-hmm.
romance for the connection. And if
Oh, I see what
there's not a
Emma Bennet
connection there, is it
Mm-hmm.
romance?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like You need the connections.
But
And yes,
can it
it
still
is
be a
in
strong can it still be a strong connection and the relationship doesn't work out? It doesn't mean that it minimizes the connection, right?
yeah, but I don't know if that would be under romance. Like, why is it not
Interesting.
working out? You know what I
And
mean?
yet, and you guys
Is
say
it
this
like
is
a
this is why
want
I'm
to
such a fantasy
remember
reader.
where she dies of cancer? Like, because
Mhm,
they still had their entire love story. It
mhm,
was still a semi happily ever after. You know what I mean?
mhm,
But there was still a completion of a relationship. And I think the completion part, or
mhm,
ends on a cliffhanger and there's another book and you'll get your happy they're happy for now, we'll see if they're happy ever after at the end of the
mhm,
series. But you know what I mean? Like, but it people read romance, like Emma said, for that escapism, but it's also like,
mhm,
if you're unhappy in your life, let me read a romance where everything just works out.
mhm.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that's actually really interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, I actually totally agree. I totally agree with what you guys are saying. That's really interesting. Emma said it's not a romance without the couple together at the end. It's a love story if they don't end up together. That totally makes sense. And guy, once again, you see this my unfamiliarity with the romance genre. Hence, once again, I'm like such a
Yeah.
fan. Sam, like, all right, give me the mystery. I don't need to know that ending. But that's so interesting because it's really about the relationship.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
of all the
The
characters,
the the
hmm
majority of my Pagosa Cliffs books,
hmm
even though there are romance elements in all of them,
hmm
technically there's only 3 of them that are actually romances because the couples
mm,
end up together. In the majority
gotcha.
of them, by
Okay.
the end of the book, there is
hmm
the question mark: Are they going to end up together or not?
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's
I can
an
see
8
that.
book
hmm
series, but there's only technically 3 romances,
hmm
and the romance, the subplot of the romance
hmm
goes through multiple books, but
Okay.
there's only like 3 books where the couples actually end up together.
hmm Emma's like, no spoilers.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta. And if the difference between love story fiction and
hmm
romance fiction is that they have to work the
hmm
romance. It is work to get to the romance. There is trouble, there is drama, there is
hmm
trauma,
hmm
and sometimes you're at the end of the book and one character is saying to the other, we're only ever going to be friends.
hmm
And
Aw.
the other love interest is like, I don't accept that. I
Mhm.
And so yeah, so there's a difference between love story fiction and
And
romance fiction,
romance,
because in
that's
romance fiction
mhm.
it's a given that they're going to end up together.
Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm always so fascinated by different genre, by genre differences and genre and subgenre differences. So thinking of like romances and the character connections, did you guys feel that the our relationship between our main character and Ryan, I was like, I don't know why I forgot all the characters' names. I'm so bad with
Bronte.
characters' names. Between our hero and her best friend. Do you guys feel like that was very authentic throughout the story and that it
Yeah.
ended in a way that like it made sense for them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like her and Sebastian were so unauthentic and it was just a
Mm-hmm.
random chance encounter, and you can have those and like write them in your diary and relive them, whatever. But like
Mm-hmm.
nothing about that interaction was like, this could be forever. And he saved you
Mm-hmm.
one time, you twisted your ankle, chill out. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
just so like, girl, please. Like
Mm-hmm.
that I was just, like, I couldn't figure out why she kept going back. And I understand like it
Mm-hmm.
was in her head, like the love story, but like that first interaction, he had a nice smile,
Mm-hmm.
like
Well, it's
I don't
it
know, like
it's the
her
it's
and
the
Ryan were so intertwined and
Mm-hmm.
authentic and just like,
it's the
yes, we're
it's
reading, but it was palpable, their
Mm-hmm.
connection. And I was like, how are you not seeing this?
well, it's that perfect guy fantasy versus
Mm-hmm.
the friends to forever fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens is do you have the perfect guy or do you have the friends to forever?
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back, like I said from the beginning, that nice guys get friend zoned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nobody dates the nice guy. They date the bad boy. They date the Prince Charming. They date, you know, and it's like um they date the dream and not the reality.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a reason that that always happens, and I think in a story like this where it plays to that trope, it's serving the reader's expectations, right? Of like, yeah, that's what happens, and that's probably what pulls readers into it even more for this type of trope. It's like, yeah, I can relate because this happened to me, or I know somebody who this has happened to. That totally makes
They
sense.
they they look for the romance and not the
Hmm.
reality.
Hmm. So when I think about some of the other characters in the book, were you guys happy with her friends? Did you like her friends? I know we kind of had her one bestie, and then we had some of her writers. I actually kind of like the guy from a writers group. I was
Yeah.
actually kind of down for the writers group guy.
The
I'm
writers
like,
group was a fun side group
it was
of
such like
characters.
it was like a side quest. It was such a small subplot, but I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I feel like her bestie was just the entire time was setting her up for failure. The
You think
writing
so?
outfits,
Hmm.
the like the dress for the dinner at the manor. She was setting her up for failure the entire
Hmm.
time. And I was like, if you don't think Sebastian's right for her, tell her that. Stop telling her that Ryan's going to find somebody else. Just
But
tell
she did
her,
say in the beginning though that she thought Ryan was right for her. Remember that was
yeah,
one of like the early conversations. She
that's
was
what
trying
she
to push her.
focused on. She never said, like, the dude you're so hung up about
Hmm.
is a wet paper bag.
Yeah, that's a
Like,
good point.
she's not ever saying,
Hmm.
like, the Lord is, y'all don't, you have nothing to talk about. You
Hmm.
guys suck together. She never says that. She's just
Hmm.
constantly like, you and Ryan would be great. What if Ryan found somebody else? Wouldn't that make you mad? Like, that route wasn't working. Switch lanes. Go to the fact that the dude you're obsessed with is a wet paper bag. Like, switch tactics, please.
Hmm. I almost feel like that by the end because the friend really wanted to kind of be. I feel like they were almost like influenced as well by him being in royalty and him being like kind of that higher class. And I feel
I
like
don't
she almost fell into that delusion because she
No, I
like.
don't think that I think she was just like, cool story, bro. He's got a manner. Awesome. He's not right for you. Look at
Mhm.
Ryan, the dentist. His job doesn't matter. And she was just
Uh-huh.
like, cool, he's a lord. Awesome. Yeah, that's so awesome. That's just like your books. Like, but this book that you're writing right now is your best book ever, and it doesn't end up with you with the Lord.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like if she just would have said the
Mhm.
dude, the wet paper bag, it wouldn't have changed anything
Mhm.
except my opinion on the best friend. Like, if she was almost the definition of insanity, doing the same thing again and
Mhm.
again and again and expecting different
Mhm.
results. It wasn't working. Pick a new tactic.
Okay. Yep. I could see that. Mom, Maggie, how did you feel about the friend?
I loved her friends. I loved
Mhm.
how like honest they were with her. I really liked Camille, the way
Mhm.
Camille would like drag her out, and she's like, "Okay, so you want writing gear? Are you sure? Because it's not cheap, you know, and you're terrified of horses. What are you thinking?" And and it was just like and it was she was like, yeah, I'm so we can have something to relate to, and I need to understand him. And Camille was like, okay, I'll help you, but and and then Camille, I honestly, Camille was like, there, she was just after Ryan met the writers group, she was like, push, little push here, little nudge here. Oh, go tickets to go to the ball. I want to take Ryan with me. Ryan can come with me. And you know that it's like you could see the back of Camille's head thinking, if I can get them on the dance floor together, if I can get her
Mhm.
away from Sebastian, if they can have that romantic moment, she'll give up this idea of dating Prince Charming and see that he is the one that she needs to date, not him.
Oh man, yep, I could agree with that. Let me think. I'm also trying to think. I think something that resonated the most for me was definitely the parallel with the story. Do you guys think that the story parallels, like obviously we love that she's a writer, writers group, that's definitely the vibe. But do you think that her using that story as the personification for her main character journey, do you guys think that worked?
I feel like
I
I
think so.
learned so much from books that the
Mm-hmm.
fact that her own writing, her own book was teaching her, I like really resonated with. And
Mm-hmm.
it got me turning the page. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was like, what more can her story teach her? Let's go. I was with it. Like I almost feel like her writing that story was my favorite character after
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, was her own story teaching her,
Mm-hmm.
because like I
Well,
feel like characters teach each other and like you learn something from each one, and so
Mm-hmm.
like her story teaching her was like almost my second favorite character of the
it
book.
was like her subconscious was trying to tell her overmind. Her muse and her subconscious were like, no, 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 no. We need to date him,
Mm-hmm.
not Prince Charming.
Yeah, go with what fits. Don't
Yeah,
try
don't
to
take
fit a
bits of that.
That's
square
Don't
interesting.
take
peg into a
Yeah.
round hole.
That's interesting.
because
The book essentially personified her subconscious. You're
yeah,
absolutely right. That's really what it was meant to serve. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, when you frame it like that, I actually think that was a really good strategy. And I think I think, and I don't know how many of these are like genre trends, but I think when we think about writers, I'm like, I pull myself back from a writing perspective, right? I'm like, what did I learn from this book as a writer? I think things like Mr. Darcy, I think Mr. Darcy as a tool, as a character to serve our protagonist worked very well throughout the story. I think using the book to really personify her subconscious, great strategy. I'd love to hear. So, like, I know we're gonna actually be bringing on Emma in just a few minutes, but from a writing perspective, do you guys think there's any tools that Emma did really, really well in the book where, like, I think I could use something like that? I would like to try out that type of tool in my own writing, or I wish I could see more of that in other types of stories.
I've actually done the thing where I have
Mhm,
two scenes that are the exact same setting scene
mhm, mhm,
written in completely different perspectives and
mhm.
completely different outcomes.
Okay.
Um, and just the difference of perspectives, like I write Relic of Time War is time travel fiction, and
Mhm,
so I have scenes that where the thought process of these scenes, like for one character versus the character going in one direction through time versus the time traveler going back, same scene but totally different perspectives,
mhm,
just based on the stakes and the interactions and the internal dialogues. But I
mhm,
love how she does this in more than one of her books. If she'll have mirror scenes where the outcomes are completely in the interactions and the feel of identical scenes are completely different simply based on the character interactions. And I think Emma does that amazingly well.
mhm,
Um, And I love that all of her side characters have these really interesting backstories
mhm.
that you just get a little bit enough of it where you were like I'd read a book about Camille.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I feel like each of the characters' backstories could definitely be further fleshed out in an extended universe, an extended series, or different books. Now, I know Emma has definitely a number of books in her catalog. I'm sure this will be one of our questions coming up, but I'd be very curious to see it. Like, do we, and I don't know if this is a thing in the romance genre or not, but do we ever get to see like hints? Do romance or stories take place in a similar universe? And it's like, okay, we're just going to do a different romance in a different part of the world.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
like
a thing that's
there's a
that's
you keep a roster so that
Mhm,
like my favorite author who I cannot wait to go meet on
mhm,
Saturday uh has interconnected standalones. So she
mhm,
has like one series and then it interconnects with another series, but like
mhm,
the characters know each other and they interconnect with another series, which connects with
mhm,
another series in another state in another area. And then
mhm,
like they're all over the globe because I mean contemporary romance. So like the universe is already made. So like
mhm,
they're everywhere and and they all like they know somebody from each area, but they don't
Mhm.
know everybody because it's, you know, it's a small world, but it's a big world too. And so like I love that because like you'll read about one character and you're like, you kind of mentioned your best friend, and knowing the author, it's like, who you gonna end up with? Like who's your like what series are you gonna be in? Who's gonna be your beau? And you might
Mhm.
not get it, you might get it, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait. You know, like I have read absolutely every book that Katie Oliver has ever written, and I will continue to be that until the day that I go because like I love how she does it. And when
Mhm.
she gives
Cliff.
interviews, she suggests that. She's like, you write a book, write all your characters, and the ones that don't end up with someone, highlight it because that's a future that you could do if you have a character in this book and you're like, what you gonna do? Like, I know I want you to have more of a story.
Mhm.
Grab from your roster who you want them to end up with. And I love that concept.
See,
And it's
that's
a
what
Interesting.
I do
very
in
big one.
Pagosa Cliffs because I have two parallel series. I have the Pagosa Stars, which is about the
Mhm.
Pagosa County Sheriff's Department, and I
Okay.
have Pagosa Cliffs Anemones, which is about the Wild Anemone Bakery
Mhm.
staff. And these characters, they're parallel in the same places, but different characters end up, you know, with different group. And like the love interest that comes in for the sheriff in book 5, she actually gets mentioned in other books earlier because she grew up in this town and then she left, and you find out that two other characters in this town were actually responsible for her leaving Pagosa Cliffs because they had bullied her in high school.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
And
like
and
your
so
true fan
so
base will love that.
then you get
That
these
makes sense.
long term character threading through, and it's like the book that's coming out in November, Stars Over Pagosa, which is one of
Mhm.
the sheriff's deputy stories. He's the jilted love interest from one of the earlier books, divorced and just trying to like recover himself and make up for his past. He ends up getting his own romance much later down in the series, and it's like
Interesting.
so.
Okay.
So then, one of the night, if you're writing romance series, one of the things you'll find with a lot of romance writers is you will have characters that will be so that you as the writer fall in love with, and you feel like you need to give them their
Mhm.
own book. You
Yeah,
need
that
to
that
give
that
them.
It
totally.
opens you up to like short novellas that are just
Mhm.
for like seasons. Like I have 4th of July books, like novellas from
Mhm.
just characters that I have fallen in love with, wanted more of their story, but their story is done. So here's a glimpse of what they do for 4th of July. And I'm gonna drop that for you. And it's like a little novella. I'll pay that. Let's go.
and
Give me
and they make
all of it.
great they these short stories that you write off, they
Mhm.
make great things to go into anthology to spread. Like I have the in Pagosa Cliffs,
Mhm.
I have in the Christmas anthology that I wrote for with my publishing house, I have a
Mhm.
little excerpt called The Christmas Widow, and it ties directly into Pagosa Cliffs. You meet Sheriff Tanner,
Mhm.
you meet Deputy McConnell, and it's these little short stories, these little side stories. If you can get them into an anthology, it spreads the
Mhm.
knowledge of your series, of your writing style, finds you more
Mhm.
fans. Also,
Yeah.
they make great reader magnets. Sign up
Yeah.
for my
Mhm.
newsletter, get this free little
Mhm.
novella. You know,
Yeah.
I'm having a thing. If you sign up for my Ko-fi or my Patreon, I'll give you this little novella for free. The little side stories you write to fill out your universe, whether you're writing romance, whether you're writing
Mhm.
fantasy, whether you're writing
Mhm.
sci-fi,
Mhm.
these make great little hooks to bring readers to you, because who's going to turn down a free book?
Yeah, so I definitely I think that actually makes total sense, and I love that it applies outside of genres. And I think something that we can all agree on is we are ready for the Emmaverse. So I think without further ado, let us please welcome to the stage the one, the only, the wonderful Miss Emma Bennet. Welcome, welcome, my friend. Uh,
Hey, thank you so much for having me here. Can you hear me and everything?
yes, we can.
Brilliant.
How are you doing today, Emma?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I think it's always a bit nerve-wracking to hear
Hmm.
people talking about one of your books, but you've all been
Hmm.
very kind, and thank you so much for making this your book of the month.
Hmm. Yeah, and clearly, like I know you've been involved in the conversation in the chat. I just want to say thank you for letting us read your book for the month. We've all gone on such a journey, and I think the one thing we can all agree on is that we all want a Mr. Darcy of our own. And I might have a new
Yes.
appreciation for dentists.
I do feel a bit bad. I mean, I wrote this book a long time ago,
Oh, this is
and
an early one.
and I don't know, maybe my feelings about dentists have changed a little bit, but at the time that was like the least sexy profession that I could think of, other than something
Hmm.
that would just be so awful that there
Hmm.
would be no getting over it.
That's that's fair. That's
So yeah, so I mean, and Emma, I'm curious. Like, so you've written a number of books. Clearly, I know you have a whole catalog under your belt.
Yeah.
How many have you extended this universe beyond Her Perfect Hero? Do you write more like relationships in the same universe? Do we have more
No,
mystery stories at all?
no, there's no more Mr. Darcy, although there is a goat in my latest Christmas book called Houdini, who is also very entertaining.
Mhm.
I did take against him rather, though. I wrote the whole of the first draft of this book with this goat, and he's a rescue, and he's best friends with the little girl in the series, and they do everything together, and it's wonderful, except they live in this beautiful house, and it turns out that you cannot house train a goat. I discovered. And so the second draft was basically me removing this goat from every single scene inside the house. You keep sneaking in, I keep chucking him back out again so that he can't pee over all the furniture. So yes, I think I definitely prefer Mr. Darcy to him. But no, this is a completely standalone book. I haven't written anything else in a Mr. Darcy universe.
Aw. Well, Emma, we're glad that you're joining us. We have a series of questions for you today because there's some things that's been on our mind. I know we've just been talking about it for the past hour, but now being able to speak with the one, the only, the author themselves, we definitely there's some things that we're curious about. So we're going to be asking you some questions of our own. We also have a number of questions from the community. So if you're watching this on the live stream or the replay right now, drop a question. We'll queue it up if we have time. We do have a good number of community questions. But we want to try to get as many community questions as possible. So if you have a question for Emma about Her Perfect Hero, about the book, or about her author journey, drop them in the comments and we'd be happy to try to add them to the queue for you. And all right, Courtney, I'll let you take it away with the first round.
okay. So when you wrote Her Perfect Hero, what were the themes or emotions that you wanted to explore deeply?
So the story kind of came about just with the idea of a woman who is absolutely determined that she is going to wait for this perfect guy. And I think it must have coincided with me either watching or reading Sense and Sensibility, because obviously the scene with the ankle and the horse is very much based on Marianne and Willoughby in that story, and which is just, it's such a ridiculously romantic moment in that story. But of course, Willoughby is a cad, and he's no good at all, and he's not right for Marianne. And so that kind of got me thinking. And then, you've got Colonel Brandon in Sense and Sensibility as well, and he's definitely not your typical hero. So who could I have that wasn't a typical hero? So that's kind of how it's sort of all began coming together in my mind. Definitely just kind of themes of friendship leading to love, definitely sort of slow burn romance and things like that, and where we're not really aware of what's best for us. necessarily, and we're going along the wrong path, and it takes a bit of a shove to get us back on the right one again.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And you can totally see that. I saw the different, like, my favorite movies, like, referenced, or, the similarities. Like, I totally, like, connected to those parts of the book. When you were, would you say that your character or your plot came first? Did you know who she was, or did you just know where the story was going?
It was the general idea of waiting for a perfect man, and then the name Bronte just came into my head, and she kind of formed herself very, very quickly. The idea that she writes romance, the idea that that is what she does, and that's partly what's made her the way that she is, because she's writing these perfect relationships, with these people who are destined to be together, and that is what she is determined to have. And she thinks that there's a certain way that that has to happen.
Yeah, I can see that.
I have to say, Emma, I love the references. Not only obviously as her name Bronte, but the Wuthering Heights references.
Mhm.
I
Were
think
there other Bronte references throughout that I missed? Was it just Wuthering Heights, or did you throw in some other ones?
I think it's just Wuthering Heights from what I remember, but please bear in mind, I wrote this about 12 years ago.
So, like, there's all these other references. You're like, next book.
It could be. I mean, if you want to find other references and think it's deeper than it actually is, I'm happy with that. Go for it.
consider it a scavenger hunt. Drop them in the
Yeah.
Discord if you can find, or highlight them, take screenshots, and share them out in the Discord, because that would be a really cool scavenger hunt to find. I liked the Harry Potter reference that was in there. It's totally highlighted on my Kindle.
It was a Harry Potter.
There's the Scrabble. I love the Scrabble game that she can't beat him at that she can't beat Ryan at Scrabble.
Oh no, she does beat him when she plays with the father. She just loses to the father, but she does beat him.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah. Actually, you're right.
She just doesn't win the game, but she beats him, and she rubs that in his face.
So here's a question from the community. Bronte was a romance writer who was more in love with the ideal romance than actual relationships. Were you, Emma Bennet, as a young romance writer, ever like that?
No, because I didn't start writing romance until after I was married.
Oh, wow.
So definitely not. No, my first book, The Green Hills of Home, I think I started writing maybe when my youngest was a baby. I think something like that. I wrote some children's picture books before that, but didn't start writing romance until I'd been married a good few years.
All right. Another question from the community. What is Bronte's ranking in the Amazon store that she can afford several new outfits and a home on an author's salary?
Wow. The wonderful thing, let me tell you, about being a romance writer is that romance is hugely popular. It is the best-selling genre, pretty much always, I believe, and has been for a very long time. And those foreign royalties are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And it soon adds up if you've been doing it for a while. So she has been writing for a long time. She's got those foreign royalties coming in. She's got audiobooks, she's got a lot of income coming in. She's okay. She does okay for herself.
It's also romance fiction.
and I think that also plays to the world. I think it plays to the world really well. Yeah. I know something, Emma, that comes to mind when I'm going to approach it more from the writing process side of it, because I love trying to figure out, like, okay, with the community, what are like the writing things that we can learn from your style. So when I think about the drafting process, and we all know it takes us a while, writing process takes time. First off, how long did it take you to write this book? From idea to Final draft, ready to publish.
Honestly, this one, I don't know how accurate I can be. I know that I was supposed to finish it before I was allowed to have a puppy, and I didn't. I got the puppy first. I remember that.
Was the puppy the
Um,
motivation for finishing the book? You're like, all right, we need the.
yeah, it was like, I want a puppy, I want a puppy. And my husband said, well, you can have a puppy once you finish your next book. But me being me, I found a puppy before I'd finished it. If I remember, I think what happened was I had, that is the puppy. Actually, it's not. It's his annoying brother.
Speak of the puppy, and they shall speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I had two books out. I began by self-publishing, and then that original book was taken on by a publisher along with another book.
Okay.
And then I began writing Her Perfect Hero, and I had a problem with my ear with vertigo. And so it took me longer to write this book than it should have, because I couldn't focus properly on editing for quite a long time. And so I obviously managed to write it, but then I wrote two novellas, and then I took quite a break from writing. I needed to for a couple of years, at least I think it was, until my ear improved and I was able to properly focus again on using the computer. So it did take me longer than it should have, really.
Okay. No, that totally makes sense. I mean, sometimes, right, we try to start writing a book and then life gets in the way. So
It
I'm
does.
really, I'm
You know,
curious.
I've been doing this for a long time now. So when I write a book now, because I know what I'm doing and I know how to plan a book, I know how to plot it, it will be broken up over a few months, but it essentially takes me 12 weeks to get to the point that I can send it to my publisher. But there will be breaks within that time for me to step back from it and think about it, for beta readers and critique partners to have a look at things and stuff like that. But it's essentially 12 weeks of work to get it to my publishers.
Okay. And I'm curious, Emma, because I know you've written your share of books. How, just off the top of my head, how many books have you published today, or how many books have you written?
I've written 17 now. No, 19 if you include children's books which aren't out yet, and I have published 15 so far.
That's impressive. That is so impressive. That's incredible. Now, so now that you're looking back on Her Perfect Hero, and I know you said it's been a while, how do you feel about the book now? Do you still love the characters the same, more?
I love it. Yeah. I mean, we shouldn't have favorites. We really shouldn't. But yeah, this one I really like. I like the kind of fairy tale aspect of it. I love Bronte as a character. I like the comedy in it as well, and it was lovely to hear that you guys enjoyed the comedy aspect of it as well. So yeah, this is at least one of my favorite book babies.
Aw. I absolutely love that. I know I have some more writing routine questions, but why don't we do a couple more community questions? I'll throw it down to you, Mama Maggie.
All right. We do have a couple of community questions. Richard, of course, wants to know, have you ever fallen in love with a dentist? Oh, Richard.
No.
Did that inspire your dentist character?
No, a physicist. A physicist.
Okay, pretty close. Physicist, dentistry. Okay.
And from the chat today, 1,000 Great Books ask, how do you fast track developmental editing for a novel while also maintaining a full-time job that involves writing? In case you don't know, Emma does have some nonfiction books on her Amazon page. One of them is Write, Eat, Sleep, Repeat. 30,000 days to 50,000, 30 days to 50,000 words, formerly with the challenge we do not speak of. And I'd rather be writing. So please, Emma, how do you handle mom life, dog mom life, wife life, writer life?
All the life. Yeah,
All the
it's
lives.
just setting aside the time and being organized, I think. I mean, my family always come first, and writing very much has to work around that, and it seems to work. I mean, it's a lot easier now that my kids are older.
Mhm.
Two of them have deserted me now, callously. And yeah, and so there's only two of them causing trouble at home now, so I guess that helps.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think what's interesting is trying to find that right balance with our priorities. And I think what I see a lot of times, Emma, and I know you speak with so many writers, you speak with so many, especially being an author tuber yourself. Um, I see so many writers struggle with trying to find that balance of I want to write this book, but they also have a
Mm.
life. So it's trying to figure out like what is that right thing. Do you see that happen with a lot of writers, and do you have any like advice for writers who are struggling, who might not know what their priorities are,
Yeah.
or they just want to publish a book?
Yeah, I mean it's so difficult, and
Mhm.
I am in the very privileged position that I am not working my writing around um, another job. I
Mhm.
do writing adjacent work. I'm a
Mhm.
developmental editor and a book coach, and I teach a creative writing class as
Mhm.
well. But it is all kind of writing
Mhm.
adjacent. And I can't imagine getting home from work at 6 o'clock, making supper for everybody, and then somehow trying to get the energy together
Yeah.
to be creative. It's hugely difficult. Um, the way that I began was because my children were very little. They
Mhm.
were in bed early, and then that would be my my writing time.
Mhm.
As far as I remember, my husband also works from home, and so he was always around as well to kind of take over and look after the kids for a little bit or whatever. We also home educate and always have done for the last 21 years. So
Mhm.
there was that kind of going back and forth as well. But it makes a huge difference having another adult around who you can kind of get to do um, things with the kids for you while they're little. And yeah, it's just making the most of all the little bits of time that you have. I have no idea how many scenes have been written while I was waiting for kids to finish judo or at scouts,
Mhm.
and things like that. Just in a notebook or on my phone, leaving my laptop open in the
Mhm.
kitchen so that as I walk past it, I can add a little bit to a manuscript if necessary. I've also done that. It really is just finding a way that works for you.
Emma, now I'm just like imagining when your kids were young, you're just like kid in one arm, writing notes down with the pen in the other arm, and you're just like going back and forth to your notepad of ideas.
Well, it helps that we had quite a few kids, so they could all just go off and play together. You
All
didn't have to
right,
be
so there's a
dependent.
recommendation: just get more kids so they can go deal with each
Yeah,
other.
have more kids. Yeah, it's like, look, you've made them friends. Yeah, go, go be friends.
I absolutely love that. Let's see. Did we have any more community questions, Mom Maggie?
We do have a few more. One of them is from Lynn from the Right Now community. How big is the town? It feels small in the description, but big enough to host an active writing group. Is that like a UK thing, like little tiny towns with like
Yeah,
writers group?
Hmm.
Because yeah, I could move
no.
there.
Yeah. So, for example, the creative writing group that I run in my local community centre, the people who attend it I think only one of them actually lives in our little market town. Everybody else travels from either they live in the middle of the countryside or in one of the surrounding towns or villages. So that very much is a thing in the UK, in rural areas. You have to travel to things if you want to go and do them. But unlike the US, it's not 4 hours in the car to go and travel to somewhere. It's kind of 20 minutes.
All
That
right.
I'm sorry. I was
Oh,
going to say
go
that
ahead,
actually
Courtney.
was one of my questions about your writing craft and how you balance the authenticity of the regional dialect and keeping it acceptable for like a broader audience.
Oh, I I know that my books in general are just very British, and I grew up in London.
Mhm,
Bronte lives in Kent, and I guess she
mhm,
probably speaks kind of the way that I do in my head. Um, I have other characters in other books from a lot of them are in the south of England. We've got some in Wales. We've got some in Scotland now. So I guess it's just as writers, when we are writing dialogue, if you're anything like me anyway, you're imagining it in your head and you're hearing it in your head, the way that they're saying it. And because you know your character, you kind of know how they're going to say it. I appreciate that's not explaining it very well, but I think that's how it works for me.
Okay, well, would you say that there were moments where like the British culture shaped the plot or the characters' decisions, and that was like a focus is to keep it very British? Or did you want it to be
I
a broader audience and maybe bring Britain to other cultures and areas?
Um, I think that I like the idea of setting the book in Kent
mhm,
because um, it's a very beautiful county
mhm,
in the south of England, and I've set a couple of books there, but it is very quintessentially British, and
mhm,
I especially wanted that for Sebastian and for his family.
mm,
I wanted them, their family have lived in their home for generations, and so that was quite important for that. Um, I do with my publisher. I am the only one of their authors who has an individual sheet that the editors use to make sure that they're going by the guidelines. And everybody else, they go by the publisher's guidelines, but I have my own individual one because when they started editing my books for me, they would put Americanisms in and American spellings, and I said, but my books are very British. They're written by a British person. They're set in the UK, and I don't think it fits for you to be changing these things. I think it needs to have the British spellings and the British words for things. And that's part of the appeal, is what I've heard, especially from readers from the US, that they really like that aspect of my books.
mhm,
I
Yeah,
love that aspect of your book. I
mhm,
loved it.
I loved it. I just have one question. Can
Mhm.
you describe the chili with the yogurt? Because coming from a
You
very southern woman, you
Right?
wouldn't put yogurt in your chili.
It's
So
their
like I
version of
get
No,
sour
you would
cream.
mix to it.
huh?
Yeah, like
It's
sour
like
cream. You have it
it's
mix
like
Okay,
sour
okay.
cream.
it.
That makes me feel so much better because I was just like, what are we doing over there? Why are we putting
No, it's
and my
like
mom
good
was like, well,
spicy
maybe it's
food.
Greek yogurt.
You
And I
have
was like,
yogurt with
why does
it.
that make it better? Like
so is that something we're all going to have
Poor
to
Courtney,
be
I think she
trying?
was having this dream of you putting like sweet vanilla
I was
yogurt
like,
on
I'm
top of
never going to
spicy
England.
chili.
Strawberry yogurt on there.
Yeah, no, I'm a weirdo, but I'm also like I'm a foodie, so like
Yeah.
Sebastian's taste palette had no taste buds, and so he was never gonna end up with Bennet because like she had taste buds, and I was like, but she's also putting yogurt in her chili, so like, does she really? And so yeah, no, it was concerning for me. I needed to know.
He does have taste buds. He just likes his mum's cooking. It's not his fault. But it is funny how food in books
Mhm.
often gets such a reaction, and we often do things with our food and we don't realize that other people don't, because if I
Mhm.
have something that's spicy, I would have yogurt on the side with it.
Mhm.
That's just what I would have. And when
Mhm.
um, there was another talk that I was doing about one of my other books, His Secret Daughter, and somebody said, "Oh, I've really got to say this because it's driving me mad." They served the little girl pasta and pesto, and she's only 2 or something. Like, that was ridiculous. And I'm there going, "What else do you feed a 2-year-old?" Like, I like that's what you get home late. There isn't much time to cook something for them. That's what you make a 2-year-old. Like, in my head, it was a completely normal thing to feed them, but everybody else was like, "That's like no 2-year-old would eat pesto." I was like, "Believe me, they do."
Some 2-year-olds, if you're not watching them, they will get the tube of pesto out of the refrigerator and suck it like a candy pop.
Mhm.
I've
Yeah,
also met kids
I
who
think
are
that's
like
interesting.
screaming,
Mhm.
I'm not touching it. But then I've met other kids where, and I feel like that's like a more of a parenting style. Like if you're the type of
Yeah.
person who cooks separate meals for your kids, then yeah, they're not going
Mhm.
to eat the green stuff. But if you're like a parent who's like, hey, you got to try it first, then they'll try it and they might like it.
Mhm.
We have another question in the chat. Is it advisable to have a protagonist whose goals change every few chapters?
Oh, that's a good question.
Mm. I think that could be quite interesting in terms of character development, in considering why they would do that, and how their character arc is going to be influenced by that. I think at some point they would have to get themselves together and work out exactly what was right for them to make it a satisfying story, because if they keep changing, then the reader's never going to know what they actually want, and whether it's just
Mhm.
going to change again would
Mhm.
be what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's really. I think that's a great answer, Emma. I think it's also understanding what is the difference between a character's motivation for their entire story, and then what are like tends to be what side quests or little
Mhm.
goals. Because I mean, in your book, obviously, her goal was she wanted to have the perfect romance, right? That perfect like
Mhm.
hero come sweep her off her feet in a way that was genuine and true, and that you were very obvious about that. But then there's these little side quests. I like to call them side quests, like her writers group, for instance, where the quest is
Mhm.
like, okay, I just want to go have this writers group. So then her goal for that chapter is, okay, I want to get through the writers group, and then she brings Ryan, and now it's like, okay, well, I want this to not be awkward, right?
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. I wouldn't have seen that as a goal. When
Mhm.
when to me, if you're talking about a protagonist goals, it's like what they want from life.
Mhm.
So, like, if Bronte had started off saying that she wanted, her perfect hero, and then she decided, oh, actually, no, I want to move to the Caribbean and I'm not interested in having a partner and I want to open a bar. And then she got to the Caribbean and then she decided that actually she wanted to go to Spain and open up an animal sanctuary or something. To me, that's what I took from that as in goals. But
Mhm.
yes, like what they need to achieve at a certain time
Mhm.
because of their motivations and their life, yeah, then that leads the story through, doesn't it?
Mhm.
And I almost feel like with romance, there's one of two like grand goals for like the whole story. It's either you want to find your happily ever after, or you want like a very successful career and your happily ever after finds you. Like there's like two
Mhm.
ways to go with romance. Like you know what your
Yeah.
end goal is. Both of them they end up with something. some sort of love story happens. Like people meet, fall in love, romance, right? But like their goal in the beginning is either I want my forever person, or I'm focused on my career and I want to get me right, and love always happens to get in the way or enhance their life, or something happens like that makes it better. But like there's two routes you can go with romance, and it's either love focused or
Yeah,
career focused, and then love
yeah,
happens.
yeah. I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Okay,
So
we have a few more community
okay.
questions. This is about writer's life.
Mhm.
How many signups from newsletters have you gained? Is it helping your writing?
With where your
I
newsletter is placed,
It's,
because I don't know if you've been in the Discord, but like your newsletter is placed on your first page of chapter 1. It's your newsletter, and then below it is chapter 1. Did you feel like
oh,
that
in
got
the
you more newsletters, or having it in the back of the book like other? No, on the Kindle. On the Kindle.
on the
yeah, yeah. I
Kindle,
was
your
just wondering.
newsletter is
Like,
on your author information page. In the
Mhm.
print book, it's on your author
oh,
information page.
oh, right. So that's not my newsletter. That's my publishers. So I
Mm,
would have no
interesting.
idea how many signups that they've got from it, I'm afraid.
All right. From the comment section, we have a question. Which Mr. Darcy? Colin, Matthew, or the cat?
The cat, definitely.
And since you are a dog owner, was there an actual cat that inspired Mr. Darcy, or is Mr. Darcy just a creation from your muse?
He's a complete creation, just taking into account how grumpy cats can be, and they are wonderful but very difficult creatures. And sometimes you can love them as much as possible, and they just don't like you. I had a cat who she just really didn't like me
Mhm.
very much, and I loved her. And one of my children was had to stay in hospital for a week
Mhm.
or something, and I was with him. And I came when I came back home, this cat had been unwell, and my husband had taken her to the vets, and the vets had prescribed antibiotics because apparently she was no, sorry, not antibiotics, antidepressants, because the cat was apparently depressed because I wasn't there. And I said, "Sweetheart, you've been done. Like there is no way that that cat was depressed. I don't know what was wrong with that, but she does not like me, and I doubt that she even realized that I was not around for that amount of time." Yeah,
Yeah, I
they're
could feel
tricky
the
creatures.
yeah. I could resonate with that. The having a cat who hasn't liked me or liked people has always been it's been a challenge in the past before. So trying to write a cat
Yeah.
authentically, and I really have to commend you for this. Mr. Darcy felt like a very believable character.
Oh yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Is Mr. Darcy generally one of the reader's favorite characters from your experience?
Yeah, I think so. I do get a lot of comments about Mr. Darcy. People do like when I put animals in books.
Is it because they're an animal, or do readers generally say it's because like they're an animal, they're a cat or a dog, they like them, or your goat, of course your goat, or is it because you think of like their personality you've given them is what makes them stand out?
I think the kind of people who enjoy reading sort of cozy romances
Mhm.
probably like animals,
Mm,
and so it would naturally appeal to them. I think that I hope that I make the good characters, and that's part
mhm,
of it. But also, adding animals into a story can be an incredibly useful way to
mhm.
showcase some of your characters' attributes,
Oh yeah.
depending on how they react. In
Mhm,
my first book, there was a dog, a Labrador, whose name I can't remember now, but he had to win over the hero, who isn't really a dog person,
mm,
but that ends up being won over by this sweet dog. I've also had a puppy called Barney, um, who was a lot of trouble to write. Don't add puppies and try
Don't
and
add
do it
puppies.
realistically, because they take over the book. No
Oh,
one can
really?
do anything because the blooming puppy needs to be looked after or needs to be taken out and needs to go and have another vaccination, and
You have to
it's
take them
enough to
on
drive
walkies.
it drives you mad. I've been editing a book this last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful writer, and it's an adventure book for children, and it's fantastic. But this guy has added in 2 German Shepherd puppies,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, dude, okay, here we go. Here are some home truths. Okay, they cannot just leave 2 German Shepherd puppies who are 12 weeks old at home all day while they go off and have an adventure. The house will be destroyed. They will
Yeah,
not
yeah.
sleep all through the night. The house will be destroyed. You know, and
Yep.
just they cannot do this. They can't go away and do this because they can't take the puppies with them. No, they can't go
Mm-hmm.
abroad because you can't just pop a puppy on a plane. Yeah, and all these things. It's like, don't do it. Just don't do it.
So, so Emma, this actually leads me to a really good writing focus question. So for Her Perfect Hero, obviously there were some experiences that you were and weren't acquainted with. Obviously, you had never fallen in love with a dentist. What type of research did you have to do for the book, or was it all like
I
100% like your imagination, and you're like, okay, I'm going to craft these based off what based off or what you've read?
Yeah. So obviously, I know about being a writer.
Mhm.
Um,
Wait.
I
You know about being a
did.
writer?
Yeah, I do. Um, I did do some research into more horse riding. I did
Okay.
horse ride when I was little.
Hmm.
Because I lived in London, obviously, there's not fields everywhere and things. But my dad used to take my sister and I to a place called Vauxhall City Farm, and there were 2 choices of animal to ride. One was Ugglebug, who was this enormous Shire horse, which like 7-year-old me was stuck on. And then my poor sister was on Jacko the donkey next to me. And we would be led around the streets of South London
Oh.
learning how to chop and things. And I believe I moved into a paddock at some point, but I thought I might
Mhm.
need more sort of countryside experience. So I did do some pony tracking to get kind of more an idea of, because it had been a long time, just how it feels to be on a horse when you're not very used to it. Because it's kind of scary because you're up quite high and you don't really know how the animal is going to react if you don't know horses all that well. And and I also had to kind of look into how high they can jump and things, because Bronte's horse jumps over a gate or a hedge or something. And I kind of, so there was a fair bit of like logistics with that. I do like to visit quite a lot of country houses.
Mhm.
I find that fun. And so I did some of that, if I remember, as well. And then I don't know, I'm not sure if there was anything else in particular or
Okay.
just general kind of Googling to check things.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you for that. Because I know, obviously, we all have different processes for books. So now that it's been a little while, and you've continued to learn and grow in your journey, when you look back at Her Perfect Hero, is there anything that you would have changed or you would have written differently? Or you're like,
It
perfect,
was,
leave it alone. Mr. Darcy will always be there, Mr. Darcy.
yeah, so it's actually been gone over a few times,
Okay.
funnily enough, because when it was first published, I've got
Hmm.
the copies here, just because
Hmm.
I think it's fun. It was called I Need a Hero.
Oh, interesting.
Um,
So it went through a
yeah,
title
and
change.
yeah, and then that was with a publishing house, and then
Mhm.
I didn't write for a couple of years, as I said earlier, and I got the rights back to all my books, and then I self-published them, and it became Her Perfect Hero, and I had this
Mhm.
cover, which I like with the people actually, and
Mhm.
then my current publishers got the assigned for it, and did this cover, and so. my point is that I have actually revisited it
Mm-hmm.
a few times, and so have professional editors. Um, and what you were saying about Sebastian earlier was really interesting because I don't know, maybe I just hadn't thought about him that much. I don't think that he was a plot device, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
but wondering why he stuck with Bronte and continued wanting to see her. To me, it's clear in my mind, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe I didn't get that across quite as clearly as I could have done in the text. And that was just something that had never
Mm-hmm.
been mentioned before or come up. So yeah, it was kind of interesting to ponder.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you did really well is I think you did a great job of contrasting their obviously their relationship, or really that lack of the real lack of a relationship between them. And I think subtextually the reader can infer why he's sticking around, but I think because she's so, you give us her subconscious, you give us your her thoughts so
Mhm.
frequently, so it's like there's never a moment where I really get his thoughts, but what he talks about is mama and daddy, right? Or talk about polo and horses.
And
So it's
Polo,
like you never really get like what he it's almost like, and I could have missed it, but I don't think there's a moment where he specifically says why he is actually into her or what he loves about her. It almost
Yeah,
feels like
and
it's
then
off.
Well,
yeah, and
when
then
we
on the
were
he
back
doesn't
talking
end,
love
about
her.
it,
But it might not it
He
might not
doesn't
be
love her.
necessary, right? It might not even be necessary, right? It could just be a nitpicking thing.
Hmm.
right, but it's also
Yeah,
on the
but
back
it
end
was just
like mommy
interesting.
didn't like you. So it's like, okay, but you do everything mommy tells you to do. So like I was more confused. I was like, why are you with her? You know, like, and he was like offended that she had wasted his time. And I was like, okay, but you're like, why were you here?
I mean,
Like,
I guess that is a good point, right? If mom likes you and he's like, mom likes you because of the food, I mean, that could be a that might make sense as well.
yeah.
Yeah, I just honestly don't know if he thinks that much. I think that, you know,
I think I could agree with that.
she's she she's different, and um she idolizes him to a certain extent because of what he represents to
Mhm.
her.
well,
Um and he likes that.
well, this can go into one of our last questions is, did you mean for Sebastian and Ryan to be a social commentary on how romance readers, or in this case, a writer, looking to start relationships or looking for relationships, tend to overlook the normal nice guy in favor of that perfect hero guy?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I think that I don't think it happens all the time, but I think especially in romance books, and I know that I still do that when I'm deciding on a character.
Mhm.
Um, I want them to have certain attributes because, first of all, I want the heroine to fall in love with him, but I also want my readers to fall in love with him. And so, while you could have a milkman, say, take a milkman as a hero, he that's going to be a hard sell. And I'm not saying that that's that you wouldn't be able to, just be a lot harder. And to me, it was a lot harder to have a dentist as, although not as bad as a milkman, to have a dentist as a hero compared to this lord of the manor, or soon to be lord of the manor, with but especially because he's so gallant when he rescues her when they first meet. He's not boring. Well, he is boring when he gets onto the polo, but he's not when they meet. It's this perfect romantic exciting moment that they'll be able to tell their grandkids about. It's not just that he moved in next door and said hi and she gave him a hand with a few things.
I think that's absolutely a great answer. Mama Maggie, were you going to ask another one?
No, I was just laughing at Laura's comment that my first crush was my milkman. I was 4.
Okay. Maybe I should write a milkman as a hero then, just for Laura.
I feel like the underdogs winning is like what romance is about right now. I feel like most of those stories is like the underdog winning. So like hearing you say like the dentist was like, it almost comes across as like it was hard because he's the underdog. So like, how do you want him to make it? And everyone's like, the underdog wins. So it's,
Yeah, but
it was also written
it's
12
just
years
like
ago, and I understand that. So
it's not a sexy profession. It's not exciting. It's not whisking you away, to exotic places.
right, but it's
In
stability and it's to that comfortability of just being stable and standing on like solid ground, and people that don't have that in their life, they crave that. Like I love stories
yeah,
that will give me stability and show me that that's
yeah,
possible. And so, like, the Lord who has no job and just follows around what daddy says, like, that's not stable to me. That freaks me out. I was never going to want them to be together because he freaked me out so much. Like, the instability just freaks me out. And I think that goes with like readership and like knowing who your readers are and knowing that your readers are like, that's not their focus.
but he does have a job. Sebastian does have a job. He's financially stable. He is going to inherit the manor, and he is going to be running that estate,
Right.
which is very definitely a job.
Yeah. No.
Definitely financially stable.
Yeah, the way it was written was like, I help dad, but I basically just do polo all the time. Like I help dad when dad
Oh,
asks
yeah.
me. Like, I basically just do
Yeah,
polo all the time until my job comes in when, dad lets me know.
yeah.
But so
Yeah.
at that time, it's a lack of stability because like you play polo.
But I think for that character,
The generational wealth
Gordon,
that is
I would argue,
implied
I would
in
say
the
that's what was well
aristocracy.
done. That's what was well done about it. His character was so like shallow that
Yeah, no. I'm
lack of
not using
stability
it as a
was
con. I'm
stable for
using
him.
it as a pro, but I'm saying that like as a reader, I was never going to want her with Sebastian for that reason. As a reader, reading it, I was like, no,
But
So you see, I think
but
about
Sebastian's awful.
yeah. Well, I think about the character of Mark in Falling in Love at Nightingale Farm, which is my favorite book by Emma, by the way. And he's a wood carver, and he's helping his dad, who's trying to run a struggling farm after the mom passes away. And it's like, I love that broken, kind of withdrawn, struggling male lead versus the rich businessman who's like, yeah, come and have dinner. Yeah, we'll go have dinner at the polo club.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I want my rich to have drama that they're dealing
definitely.
with,
Like,
or I'm not going to like them.
but like a carpenter, he's good with his hands. He's creative. Like that's an easy sell as a hero. And I don't think nowadays that we do expect heroes in romance books to all be millionaires or billionaires. That's not the point, although some of them are. But I think that there does, and yes, stability is incredibly important. I agree with you, Courtney. Like, no good hero is going to give the heroine an unstable future where she either doesn't feel safe or secure in the relationship or in her life. I agree, but you do still want an element of something attractive about what the person does. I think, like I've had a publisher, the carpenter. Before, what else have I had? I've had like a businessman, or like a property developer, but he had issues. He needed to be shown the error of his ways. I've had a Scottish laird. all kinds of heroes with all kinds of jobs, with all kinds of income, but they definitely make their heroines feel safe and secure, and add that to their heroines' lives, if you like, completely. But I do maintain that if I had, I don't know, greengrocer, I don't know, somebody's going to get upset with me and say, well, actually my husband's a greengrocer, and I find it very attractive. I just mean that if you're writing a character and you're looking for a job for them, you're going to want something that is kind of attractive to readers.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit the same in life. People are going to be more attracted to people with an interesting profession, like being an author, which is the best profession there is.
Well, you
Uh,
do have characters in your books where in Starstruck you have a divorced couple, and then the wife has a new love interest, and the one that got away, you have a couple that was separated through circumstances that are then trying to work it out. How do you balance writing blended couples, or what will eventually be a blended family, in your books? Because you do have character in several of your books, characters that have come off a breakup, characters that have come out of a divorce. One or other of the characters is divorced, sometimes in a very ugly way, and then you have to write these characters on. How does that? How do you put that? Balance the cozy romance aspect with the emotional trauma aspect of like these real life things.
Because at the end of the day, the people that those characters were with before and they broke up from, the reader has to know that it was the right decision for that breakup to happen, and that they weren't with the right person, or at least the right person at the time. And so it was meant to be. And yes, it's been upsetting for them, and they need to be able to heal from that trauma. But once they do, it will be better for them, and they will be with the right person for them, I think, is what it comes down to. It's knowing that there's going to be that happy ever after for them at the end, which, as we learned earlier, a romance has to have. So, yeah, you've got that safety net. You know that everything's going to be okay at the end.
well, Emma, I just have to say, as we're coming to the nearing this that the hour mark of our time with you today, thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for giving us your book, letting us be able to discuss it. I know you have, like you said, 15 to 17 books with a couple that are coming out. What book is next to leave our community with? What can they expect next from you, Emma?
So hopefully the next
Mhm.
book is going to be the start in a series. It's set in a fictional Welsh town, and it features a bookshop. It's a romance bookshop with a young woman who comes to take over running it for the summer while her aunt who owns it is away, and discovers a rather handsome bookbinder next door.
Ooh, I like that. Who doesn't love the cozy bookshop trope? That's a very popular trope right now, right? With bookshops.
Yes, it is. Oh, and it has kittens.
Ooh, all right, we get
So
So no puppies, but yes, kittens.
no, there's a very ugly little pug mix
Mm-hmm.
thing, and then and there are kittens in it as well. So all the
Aw.
animals.
Oh, well, so adorable, Emma. I know we're definitely looking forward to that, but thank you, thank you for joining us today. Are there any parting words you want to leave for her perfect hero, for anyone who's read it and gone through the whole book?
Oh, just thank you so much for having me here today, and for reading my book, and for all of your kind words.
Aw. Well, Emma, thank you. Thank you again for joining us. I know today has been a great conversation. I was like, drop you from the screen over here. Today's been like a great conversation as we've been able to experience it. And we're actually going to be hopping into our next vote. we're actually going to be voting. So Emma, you're of course welcome to join us, or you can get going. We're actually about to vote for our June book of the month. So the June book is what we're actually about to go for. Courtney, do you have the link queued up?
I do.
Give that to me. So for anybody who doesn't know, we're actually going to be voting for June, which our June book genre is fantasy month. So we're going straight from romance to fantasy. And we got a lot of recommendations. I know, let's see, Courtney, you threw that on the screen. And we're all going to be voting for it right now. So, yeah. I know we've gone through a couple of different months already. Emma, Mama Maggie, I know you guys have both kind of been checking out some of the different months. I know we started with, I think we did paranormal, then we did sci-fi, and now we did romance. So we're trying to like capture all the genres. I'm curious, as we're queuing this up, do you guys ever read outside of your genres normally?
Oh, I am totally a genre slut. I even have a mug that says genre slut because I write everywhere and I read everywhere. So I enjoy reading outside my genres. It's a good way to broaden your horizons.
Yeah, definitely agrees. The only genre that I don't read a lot of is horror.
But oh, the only one you can't do, you said, is horror?
I don't read a lot of horror. I will read horror if it's written by my friends, but in general, I don't read a lot of horror.
Want to pop that image on the screen though, Kaufman, because there are some people who have already voted.
Oh yes. All right. Let me give me just a second. Let me throw everyone back in. And Emma, you can just holler at us if you need to get going. We're just going to throw up the voting for a few minutes before we close out the stream. But you have been absolutely wonderful in joining us for today.
Thank you. I will get going because it is pretty late here. It's 11 o'clock.
Oh, it is a little late for you. Well, Emma, thank you so much for joining us. You've been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Emma. And let's go over here and we'll drop you. Perfect. And all right, there we go. So I got that all set. Perfect. So let me throw this up on the screen. Give me just a second so I can throw up our voting. Let's see. And let's see. Give me the image one more time, Courtney. Perfect. And I actually already know you already had it. Oh, I was like, how come it's so difficult for me? Because I'm not in my studio right now. I'm on my one computer. So my screen share options are very limited. Okay, so bear with me just a second.
You need me to do it again, or you good?
I think I can do it. So I have to get screen share up first, just a second. And all right, so I'm going to throw this up on screen. I got to get my screen share going. And all right, bear with me just a second.
So, Richard, I see that you've read one of them. Is that the one you voted for, or did you decide to branch out and go new?
I voted for one I haven't read yet, so.
Yeah, no, I am excited. I saw one and it just really spoke to me, and then we needed another one, and I grabbed another one that I was like, I've heard this person talk about this book, and I know I need to I'm gonna read it regardless, but it's gonna be TBR or Read Book Club.
All right, you guys can see it on the screen now, right?
Yes.
All right, perfect. JK. All right. So yeah, my thing's a little bit different. I have to put my screen. Perfect. So we do have that. So definitely go vote on one of those 4 books. Let's see. What are the titles of the books that we got this time around?
You're gonna ask me to read on camera.
Let's see. What do we got?
Sorry, I have kittens climbing all over a bookshelf right now.
Let's see. So it looks like the 5 we got is The Depths of Vanalf. I was like, make sure I say that correctly. By Brady Hunsaker. This is the Grimmier Chronicles Volume 1. We have Crown of Ilova by Sienna Harlow. We have, oh my goodness, I wish I could. This book sounded so cool.
I know, right?
Saving Rom, a meta eerie novel by Jay Davenport. Chaotic, and I believe that's Chaotic Realms.
Reality.
Chaotic Realms or Reality.
Is it
Reality.
reality?
Chaotic Reality by Kyan Sear, and then
Who's a member of the Right Now community.
Yep, which is one of our Right Now community members, and then The Look of the King by Tu Doombra. I was like,
Tom Dumbra.
yeah, Tom. That actually makes sense.
I had
I
to
was
find
like,
covers on there. It's not an easy task.
so definitely everyone go vote now. Go throw up your votes. We want to hear from you. This is going to be for our June book of the month as we go into our straight fantasy month. Everyone go vote and we will see who the winners are. I was like, normally I would throw this up on my other screen, but let's see. How are their votes looking, Courtney?
We have one at 50% and then two at 25. So
Okay,
it
so let's
is
see.
a close race.
We're getting a couple. Ooh, I was like, there's so many. I don't even know which one I would want to read. I'm like being a fantasy reader. They all kind of seem cool.
I already picked mine. I already voted.
Oof. Oh, this is a hard one. Okay. All right. I think that's what I'm gonna go with. All right. Oof.
Ooh,
Okay.
you
Let's see.
have this. I can tell which one you picked. It's shifted. We have a tie.
Okay. So let's see. All right. So I'm going to stop the screen share on my end so I can pull back up my screen. And let's see. Let's go back over here. I was like, you guys don't want to see that not so fun other screen. So let's see what we got from our voting. So definitely go vote now. Go help us. Go join us as we try to decide what the book of the month is going to be for June. Let's see. Let me pull
I'm
up.
gonna go put that in to the Discord.
Mm-hmm. So how about this? So that way we can give everyone a chance to vote. Why don't we give the we'll leave the voting open for today and we'll announce on tomorrow's update stream since we still
I
have
think
a
that's
couple
a
days.
perfect idea.
Yeah.
Because it's
So that way, because I think for last month we did it on stream, but I think we want to give as many writers a chance to be able to vote. So I think that actually might be a better idea.
yeah, I agree. And that way,
Mhm.
like, we still have like another weekend or a
Mhm.
week of May. So we have
Mhm.
time. So
Exactly.
you guys
For
can
anybody
read
who's still
words.
trying to finish Emma's book. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Make sure if you haven't, go vote already. Tomorrow, Monday, will be a Right Now update stream. So yeah, we'll announce tomorrow the results. And thank you all for joining us. It's been a great conversation. And Courtney, Mama Maggie, you guys, wonderful co-hosts. I couldn't have done this by myself. Especially being a fancy writer, I definitively could have not done this by myself.
I couldn't
It, it's because I read all over the place.
Mhm.
Like the only thing that I don't read is like really graphic horror or like
Mhm.
body dysmorphic horror, things like that.
Mhm.
I'm not a horror reader just because I do read Stephen King though, but it's more
Mhm.
for his world building than his horror. I don't
Yeah.
know if that makes sense to people, but I'm the
Mhm.
kind of person that I'm like, there's enough horror in the world. We really don't need this. So, yeah. But no, I enjoy these. I enjoy the books because I have a reason to skirt around my New Year's resolution to not buy any new books until I get my TBR below 100. So yeah, but I have to do this for the book club. It's an obligation.
Yep, yep.
So
Uh-huh.
so
I actually, yep, it's
the
encouraging
books
me
for
to read as well.
the
Mhm.
books for the book club don't count.
Oh,
Just like the hundreds of books I get through my TBR from threads for
mhm.
announcing and trying to find books for recommendations, those don't count either.
No, they
All in
don't.
a co-host job. Those don't count. That's a different list.
All right, my friends. Well, thank you all for joining today. If you're just catching in on the replay or the live stream, thank you all for joining. Today's been a great conversation. We'll announce the results tomorrow. So we'll know what fantasy book we're going to be reading for the Read Now Book Club in June. And we'll be returning next month. Let us know if you what you thought about the stream today. Did you like the discussion and the interview back to back? And yeah, we'll see you guys in the Discord. Everything's linked down in the YouTube description. I'm Kaufman, and these guys are.
Courtney.
I'm Mama Maggie.
And we'll catch you on the next stream. Take care, my friends.
Hey everyone, Adrian Santiago here, founder of Books by Adrian, author of the Mythic series, and I'm here to encourage you to read now. Right now. Well, right now, not right now, but right now. Read now, right now. Is that right?